want to ask you.
Go ahead.
Because you've been high on Sherrone Moore for a while now. Couple instances where we've got the chance to see Sherrone Moore as a impromptu head coach.
Sure.
What is the importance and significance of how he's carried himself and led the team this year? And do you think maybe his name's going to come up in coaching searches?
His name should have already been in the mix. I think it's going to be further in the mix here. And obviously, whatever happens with the NCAA and what they find out there, I think would have something to say about what his market is. But let's say he's the guy that we believe that he is, an upstanding citizen that had no idea what was going on with Connor Stallions. Get all that out of the way. This is a guy who, to me, showed that he can galvanize a group of young people to follow him. And I think that's the most important thing that a coach has to do. It's not about the X's and O's. It's about what you can get your players to believe in. Now, let's look at the X's and O's. I agree with you that it was the right decision for Michigan to go ahead and say we're going to run the football the way that they did against Penn State because it was all they needed to do to win. I think it does ask a question, though, of if the run game wasn't working, what was going to be your next move? Because your tackles were struggling in pass pro, and then if you couldn't get the run game started, what was that adjustment? We didn't need to find it out. I do think it's a question that people are going to ask. And then the final thing, of course, is do you have all the other makings to be a big-time head coach? And people will point to that post-game interview, and they'll be like, oh, Sherrone, too emotional. He was swearing, all that other stuff. Listen, I wouldn't look too far into that. That's a guy who cares about his players. That's a guy who was thrown into some adversity, whether the program caused it or not, and that was his response to it. If you have questions about what he's going to be like in front of the media, do all of the mock press conferences you need to with that guy, because you'll figure out he can ace that kind of stuff. He is made to be a head coach. And quite frankly, you could ask some questions about who he will be as a leader of a program, but I think he answered a ton of them in that game too.
And frankly, if you're making a head coach hire based on how you think they'll answer questions to the media, that might not be first on my list of what I'm going to evaluate a head coach. And you said something about the run game that I thought was important, because you can ask the question, what would have happened if Penn State stopped the run? Could you have passed the ball? But you said we didn't need to find out. And that's the fairness here is until you make your adjustment, it's on the coach, Penn State, to make their adjustment, then you have to counter. We didn't need to find out. They've proved it this year that they can pass it when they needed to.
The ADs who are asking the question about what his adjustment would have looked like, you need to ask Manny Diaz that question.
There you go right there, exactly. It was on him, Manny. It was on Manny.